Okay, so now let's wrap up section 2A. So let's suppose that we want to carpet a room, measures 12 feet by 12 feet. Gives us an area of 1,200 square feet. Unfortunately, if you go to one of the stores, carpet is sold by the square yard, not by the square foot. So what we want to do is convert these square feet to square yards. Can do it a couple of ways, but I'll just start with what's given, 120 square feet, just write that as feet squared. I want to convert that to square yards, so I need my conversion factor of feet and yards. And since I want my answer in yards, I need yards on the top, I need feet on the bottom. So I know that in 1 yard, there's 3 feet. Unfortunately, I can't cancel out a feet squared completely unless I had a foot squared here at the bottom. So what I can do is I can take this fraction and raise it to the second power, similar to what I did at the end of that last video. That's going to give me 120 square feet times, when I square both parts, I'm going to end up having to square the 1, which is just 1, square the yards, which is yards squared, square the 3, which gives me 9, square the feet, which gives me feet squared. Now I'm in a position where I can cancel out my units. Cross cancel out feet squared and feet squared. That's going to give me 120 divided by 9 as the arithmetic I need to do with a final unit of square yards. So if we divide that out, we get, give me 1 second, 120 divided by 9 is 13.333. So we'll just say 13.3 square yards. So a quick way to convert square feet to square yards using that great math that we talked about on the previous video. So let's do something similar here. We've got a garden, it's 14 feet long, 16 feet wide. I need to fill it up to a depth of a foot. So we're dealing with volume. But if you do go to purchase soil or topsoil or mulch or whatever, it's sold by the cubic yard. So I need to take this volume and convert it to cubic yards. And since all of these units were in feet, I can get the volume in cubic feet and I can convert it to cubic yards. So the volume, we know, is length times width times height. So I've got 40 times 16 times 1 is going to give me 640. So I've got 640, and that's cubic feet because I multiplied feet times feet times feet. It's volume, so it needs to have a cubic answer in the units area. But now let's take that cubic foot measurement and let's convert it to cubic yards, and we're going to again use our yard to feet. I want yards at the top, I want feet at the bottom because I want feet to cross cancel. 1 yard, there's 3 feet. Unfortunately, I don't have a foot cubed here to be able to cancel the foot cubed I have there, so I'll do exactly what I did in the previous problem, but instead of squaring it, I can cube this conversion factor to get 640 cubic feet times cubing the 1 gives me a 1, cubing the yards cubed gives me a yard cubed, cubing the 3 gives me a 27, cubing the feet gives me cubic feet. Now I have the units that I can cancel out, cubic feet and cubic feet. So to finish this, I just need to do the arithmetic of 640 divided by 27, and that answer is going to be in cubic yards. So we're looking at 23.703. 23.7 cubic yards. Now let's look at some conversions dealing with U.S. units and metric units. So we've got our U.S. customary system and the metric system, and so let's do some conversions between those two. So we've got a marathon, 26.2 miles. I would like to know how many kilometers that is. So I've got to find on my sheet of conversion facts, hopefully you printed that from section 2A. On that sheet of conversion facts, it gives me a conversion of miles to kilometers. So start off with what's given, 26.2 miles. And we're going to try and find a conversion that goes from kilometers to miles. And we have one. Just take a look at your sheet. I'm looking right now. 1 mile is 1.6093 kilometers. 1.6093 kilometers. By using that conversion factor, I can, like I've done before, cancel out my miles. My answer is going to be left in kilometers. So I'm going to need to multiply the 26. The arithmetic will be 26.2 times 1.6093. So do that math. See what you. So 42.163 kilometers. I would just call that, rounding it to the nearest tenth, 42.2 kilometers. Now this isn't the only conversion factor you could have used. There was another one then on that sheet that said 1 kilometer is 0.6214 miles. So suppose I use that one instead. So 26.2 miles times that other conversion factor, and let me look at that again, 1 kilometer is 0.6214 miles. I would still be able to cancel out my units, miles and miles. I would have to, instead of multiplying 26.2 times that value here, I would need to divide 26.2 by the 0.6214. So very similar answer, 42.162, which is approximately 42.2 kilometers. So you could use either one. Just make sure when you use that, you get your units in those right positions and get them ready to be canceled. All right, similar thing, but now we're dealing with square miles and square kilometers, so we're going to have to use that great math of maybe squaring one of our unit conversions. So I'm going to start with 1 square mile. So I have 1 mile squared, and I want to convert that to kilometers, but I want to convert it to square kilometers. Well, let's use one of those conversions that we had earlier. I want to put miles on the bottom. I want to put kilometers on the top. It doesn't matter which one we use. I'm just going to go ahead and maybe use the second one. In 1 kilometer, there's 0.6214 miles. So I've got miles in the denominator where I want it, but unfortunately it's not miles squared. So the way we remedied that earlier was to take that conversion factor and square it to get the proper units, in this case of area. So 1 square mile times, now I'm going to square the 1, which is 1, square kilometer, which is kilometer squared, square the 0.6214, and square the miles. So let's square 0.6214. 0.6214, and let's square it. 0.3861. I do get my units to cross cancel, so we wipe out the square miles. My answer's in square kilometers. So what I'll need to do is divide 1 by 0.3861. That gives me 2.589. And that's square kilometers. And we could say that's approximately equal to 2.6 square kilometers. Keep in mind that I'm going to give you these conversion facts on your test so you don't have to memorize them. Same thing with the Fahrenheit Celsius conversion. I will give you the formulas. All you need to do is to be able to use them. So let's take a look at what we have here. I've got some conversion formulas, Celsius to Fahrenheit, Fahrenheit to Celsius. We've got Kelvin, Celsius, back and forth, vice versa. So if I have the formulas, then all I need to do is just be able to use it. So here is a situation. Normal human temperature is 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. And I want to convert that to Celsius. So if I have a Fahrenheit and I want to convert it to Celsius, then what I'm going to do is take that Fahrenheit value, subtract 32, then divide by 1.8. So the Celsius will be the current Fahrenheit minus 32. Now remember, order of operations, this has to be done first, then take that result and divide it by 1.8. So I come up with 37 degrees Celsius. Now let's take 37 degrees Celsius and change that to Kelvin. Well, if I want to change Celsius to Kelvin, all I have to do is add 273.15. So 37 plus 273.15 will give me my degrees in Kelvin. So 310.15. So just be able to use those formulas. I'll give them to you. You just need to be able to. Let's wrap up this section with currency conversions. I hope you get the opportunity to travel abroad. If you do, then this skill would be important, the ability to exchange currency from one denomination to another. So here are some exchange rates, and they're not so current, February 2013, but they'll work for the purposes of doing some examples. Want to make a note here that the way this table works is this column is dollars per foreign. So this 1.624 represents US dollars per 1 British pound. This column represents the foreign, which would be 0.6158 British pounds per 1 US dollar. You could use either side that you want. I just want you to realize that's how we would interpret these values. So this would be 1.005 dollars, US dollars, per foreign 1 Canadian dollar. Or again, we could say 0.9950 foreign, which would be Canadian dollars, per 1 US dollar. Keep that in mind. And here we have a situation. We have a department store in France charges 45 euros for a pair of jeans. What would that price be in US dollars? So we start with the 45 euros, and let's convert that to US dollars. So I want to make sure I use a conversion factor where my euros is at the bottom and my US is at the top. So here, this 1.320 represents 1.32 US dollars per 1 euro. I could use that conversion factor, 1.32 over 1. I will cancel out my euros. And now I just need to do a little arithmetic. In this case, multiply 45 times 1.32. And that would give me about 59.4. So 59.40, we need a unit. So I'll put my dollar sign, US dollars. So that's how those conversions for currency works. So here, we're in Mexico, and I've got $100 in US, and I want to convert that to pesos. So I want to make sure my peso is at the top, my US dollar is on the bottom, and I have this fact, 0.07855, and go back to the top, that's dollars, that's US dollars for 1 peso. So we can use that. I'm going to put the peso part at the top, 1 peso, 0.07855 on the US part. And we'll just have to do a simple arithmetic, but we're going to cancel out our US dollars. Our answers are going to be in pesos. And so I'll end up with a division of 100 by 0.07855. And that'll give me pesos, so let's divide that out. $1,273.07 pesos. Now, you could have used the other conversion factor, 12.73 pesos for 1 US dollar. We would just put a 1 on the US and 12.73 at the top, and you'll probably notice 12.73 times 100 would be 1,273. All right, and let's look at these last ones. Gasoline sells for 1.5 euros per liter, so we're talking about a division here. I would like to know what is this price in dollars per gallon. So this one's going to be twofold. I need to convert euros to US dollars and liters to gallons. So find those conversions. So here are the conversion facts I found. 1 gallon is equal to 3.785 liters. And from the table above, 1.32 US dollars is equal to 1 euro. So with 2 multiplications, 1 to get liters to gallons. So since my liter is at the bottom, I want liter at the top. I'm going to want gallon at the bottom. And so for the liter, I'm going to put the 3.785 next to the liter for 1 gallon here at the bottom. And now euros to US dollars, I'm going to want euros at the bottom to cross cancel, US dollars at the top. And on the US part, I'm going to write 1.32, and on the euro, I'm going to write 1. So with those 2 conversion factors in place, I can cancel out my euros, I can cancel out my liters, and I'm left with US dollars per gallon. And that's what I was looking for. Now we just need to do some arithmetic, so let's figure out what that arithmetic is going to be. The numerator is going to be 1.5 times 3.785 times 1.32. And the denominator is just 1 times 1 times 1, so it's just 1. And that's going to give me a value in US dollars per gallon. So figure that out. This results in $7.49 per gallon. Not a surprise, petroleum is much more expensive in the European countries. Now you work on this last one, pause the video, and once you get an answer, turn the video back on and see how well you did. So to get from Canadian dollars to pesos, our chart didn't give us a Canadian dollar to peso currency conversion. So we had to kind of stop somewhere in the middle. So from Canada, we had to stop in the U.S., find some conversion for the U.S. to Canadian. Then we can get to the Mexican peso by taking the the peso and the U.S. and changing it to peso. Sorry, I couldn't talk there for a minute. So starting with Canadian, I know there's 1.005 US per 1 Canadian, allows me to cancel out Canadian. And I know that there's 12.73 pesos and 1 US that allows me to cancel the US, and I can come up with my answer in pesos. So we're left with 1,919.04 pesos. Now when you're working in my math lab, what you'll need to do is read the directions carefully and see how they want you to round this. I would assume that they would prefer the 19.19 pesos without any decimal points. All right, so that finishes up the video for 2A. You can now go into my math lab and work on the homework for section 2A. Oh, I had a blank page behind this. Oh well, I didn't need it this time. All right, good luck with that.